Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler, Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, today we're going to look at a couple subjects that, boy, I'm excited to take and share them with you. Now, I get excited when I have something that I've run across that to share with leaders around the country. This is going to be called, What Are You Made Of? Now, leaders, so many times I get that question, Dick, what are you made of? And when we're talking about leaders, I believe that the followers ask that question more than we want them to sometimes. So let's take a look at it. Now, the first thing that I'm going to share with you is if you've ever seen a pillar, like a Roman column, that big pillar, you see, that big pillar was created by man. That's a work of concrete or chiseled stone. Now it's standing straight and tall on a solid foundation. If it's toppled over, it can be re-erected, or the pieces used to build another pillar. Now, that's pretty exciting when you think about it. I like to think of leaders as this, strong, exciting persons, and they stand straight and tall, and they're solid in their thoughts and the foundation that they stand on. But every leader I've ever known, from time to time, got toppled over. We made some kind of mistake or we did something silly. The difference is every person I've known who has lived through that has reinvented themselves or re-erected and put the pieces to build back. That's pretty exciting when you think about it. So let's look at the next piece. Now, we've looked at, are you a pillar? But I'm going to ask you, are you a piece of timber? So many times I look at a log cabin made out of nothing but logs and timbers. Now, a timber is strong, it's hewn from a tree. It can withstand heavy loads for years and years. The wood can be, though, destroyed by fire or chopped with an axe. When burned or chopped down to the ground, you can't reuse it. So that's a danger zone for me. I like to be thought of as strong as a timber and able to be hewn and shaped into different things. So I like working with wood. I'm not so sure I want to be a timber, because if I'm burned, I'm just ashes. If I'm chopped down to the ground and chopped up into little pieces, I'm probably not going to be good for much. Now, for you folks who have traveled out west and been to some places in Utah where they have something called a hoodoo, Hoodoo, hoodoo. You see, a hoodoo is made of compacted earth. It's unsettling, and I have to tell you, not very well put together. It looks ready to topple over at any moment, because on a hoodoo, the top is always bigger than the base. And it's always top heavy. When it erodes, though, when the winds come and the rain comes, and when it erodes, it'll be gone forever. When the middle finally gets whittled away enough from the weather, the top is top heavy, it will finally break over and fall, unable to be put back together again. It's kind of nice to look at. It kind of imagine all different things and the things that went to make it, and how it's withstood the test of time until now. But I'm not so sure I want to be considered a hoodoo. I think it's a pretty cool name, but I'm not so sure I want to be, as a leader, considered a hoodoo. But I have to tell you, As we were traveling, we went out to the Devil's Tower. And the Devil's Tower, I kept looking at, and I thought to myself, wow, the Devil's Tower has stood and will stand the test of elements year after year. Time, dangers of fire and erosion, and yet yields regrowth on the face of its solid wall and table-like top. I was amazed to find trees growing up on top. I was amazed to find trees growing out of the side. You see, Devil's Tower, even though that's what it's called, is a sturdy and sacred place to the Native Americans. How do I want to be looked at? I think that I would like to be looked at as a Devil's Tower with a little bit of hoodoo into it, that I'm shaped by things that have happened to me in places I've been and the people I've worked with. I'd like to think that I'm also a timber that can be shaped into different things as I go and grow and in my different ages and stages as a leader. I like the part of being a pillar, but pillars just stand there. Not so sure they're real active and full of action. That's why when I looked at the Devil's Tower, this solid piece, but it had these new things growing inside it, on it, with it. It was redoing itself. It was repurposing itself. It was reproviding. It was providing things for the environment as well as for the people. I saw very quickly that being a tower, this tower of power, if you borrow one of my things from one of my buddies, I have to tell you, I started looking at, what am I made of? Am I made of concrete and stone? Am I made of wood? Am I made of compacted sand, or am I made of something like granite? Long lasting, able to be polished, able to sustain growth. I'm thinking that's where I want to be. So leaders, I'm asking you that question. Where do you see yourself? Now, if you haven't traveled and you haven't gotten out to see the Devil's Tower or the hoodoos, or maybe visit a log cabin or seen the pillars in front of a large southern mansion, and you've never really thought of the question, what are you made of? I hope this stimulated your thought just a little bit. You see, I quite frankly like to be different parts of all of these. I like to be thought of as a stand-up person, as a pillar of the community. I like that. I like to be thought of as a crafts person, that can use the timber to structurally make it. I like to be thought of as the hoodoo, a fun, exciting person that it's out there and a good part of leadership. But I also like to be thought of a tower. Something that provides something for everyone, no matter what it is and where it is in the situation. Wow. Now, the reason I wanted to speak with you about that today is, at the beginning of the program, was because I'm being bombarded all the time from leaders who ask this one question. Dick, why do some of the really great people, my organization, leave? Why do good people leave good jobs? I just don't get it. Well, after sitting down and having some long conversations with several different organizational heads, both for-profit and nonprofit, in a couple churches, I started to see that there was a real line and thread that ran through all of them. You see, on the nonprofit side, they couldn't figure out why people didn't volunteer more, or they didn't get more involved. And on the religious, the church side of it, they couldn't understand why people weren't joining and they couldn't get involved. And when they did, they didn't stay very long. And on the for-profit, places, they couldn't. They're providing the people in their minds with a good salary and good benefits, but they just didn't stay very long. They couldn't understand it. But let me share with you some things that every one of those had in common. The first thing that I'm going to share with you is that everyone had the same in common, was that they either had poor or non-existent leadership. It was kind of, you kind of saw that everything was willy-nilly and left up to, well, if it's working today, let's just keep doing it. Oh, we've done it that way in the past, but there was no real leadership. There was no vision. There was no mission. And because there was no vision and mission, there was no day-to-day plan. And so the people just didn't know where they fit. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know the future. They just, so they moved on. One of the gentlemen who ran a large organization for profit said, "Man, Dick, I don't get it. I pay them well. They make more money here than they could anywhere else. They got better benefits. They've got all these different things. We even provide them with their clothes. We provide them with cars. I don't understand." I said, "Well, what's the vision of the organization? Do they know what the vision of the organization is? Do they know where they fit within that vision of the organization?" He said, "Well, we wrote a vision thing 4 or 5 years ago." I said, "Well, can you tell me what the mission statement was?" Well, he couldn't even tell me that. He did go look it up, by the way, and it was a good one. It's just no one was going by it. And there was no strategy, no plan, no day-to-day opportunity, so to make sure that everyone was living the mission to achieve the vision. Poor or non-existent leadership. It's a big one. The second thing that really stuck out very clearly and kind of goes along with the first one was communication. And in today's world, communication seems to be the easiest thing to go. We all have a cell phone. I've got one here. We've got a phone on my desk. I've got Twitter. I've got Facebook. I've got FaceTime. I got more ways to communicate with you than you can shake a stick at. Well, what we forgot is the personalization of it. The communication coming from the bottom, going to the top, and from the top to the bottom, and everywhere in between, sharing that communication and information. You see, in a house of worship, in a church, the people in the pews need to know what's going on with the leadership, what's happening. And again, if there's no vision and mission, why would they want to be involved in a nonprofit? The same goes. If you're on the bottom and you're just getting assigned tasks all the time, but you have no idea why we're doing it, other than you want to feel good, it's a good thing to do, you're not going to stay very long. And if you're in it for profit and there's no communication from top to bottom, I'm going to tell you what, you can make all the money in the world, but that's not what keeps people. Keeps people is relationships, and relationships take communication all the time, every day. I know it sounds simple, but boy, it seems to be the hardest thing we do. The other thing that we found quite frankly, was no follow-up. We saw plans put into action, but we saw no metrics that went with it, and there was no follow-up to take and do some kind of evaluation. Did it work? Didn't it work? What do we need to do different? Was the budget enough? Was the budget not enough? Did people overexceed the budget? There was no follow-up to find out the when, what, when, where, how. And so the next time something came up, well, kind of worked pretty good last time. Well, but there was no metrics. There was nothing written down, nothing to be shared. And that meant there was no way to communicate it to the people, which meant, poor or non-existent leadership. Another thing we found very common, very, very common, both in the for-profit, non-profit, and the churches. We found that there was no action plan. Even if there was a vision, a written vision, and everybody had bought into it and everybody had knows what it was and could repeat it and put it into their daily piece, even if everyone knew the mission and knew how to expound on it and bought into it, if there was no action plan and everything was willy-nilly and there was no metrics that went with it, everybody just did what they thought they should do. And because everybody did what they thought they should do, they were doing the best they could, but there was no communicating, there was no follow-up, there was no moving ahead. There was just doing the best they could with the knowledge they had at the time at that certain place. Sounds pretty good when you start to think about it, but it really is not good. It's not good because when everyone's doing what they think is best, there's no commonality, there's no unity, there's no working towards a common opportunity or goal. And when that happens, everybody's on their own, and so that competition that could be healthy is now negative. Well, I'm doing this. Well, how come you're doing that? Well, I'm doing this. Well, it now is a very negative thing. No action plan just brings disaster. Another thing that we saw very quickly, that there was no expectations. I was asked to be on a board of a company, and so I went to the first couple meetings, and I sat on the boardroom and I listened. I didn't say too much. And the third meeting I went to, I said, is there a list of expectations of what a board member is supposed to do, what we're responsible for, who we're accountable to? And the person who is leading the group said, we've never thought of that. We just thought it would be your privilege to take and work on our board. And I said, well, work on your board. What do you want me to do? What needs done? I don't have a clue. I don't have a job. I'm just sitting here I come once a month. What's the deal? And they said, oh. I said, look, if this all I'm going to do is sit in this chair once a month, I love you all, but I've got better things to do. What are my expectations? What do you expect me to be doing for this organization? Wow. They said, well, we've never thought about it. I said, well, I'm going to give you a list of what I think needs done that I've worked with other organizations and on other boards. This company has now grown because they saw that there was more to this than just having a title. Leadership is more than title, but without the expectations that go with it, it's just, yeah, I'm here. I'll do my own thing, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, okay. You see, it doesn't work in life, and it doesn't work in business. It doesn't work for profits, doesn't work for nonprofits, and it definitely doesn't work for churches. When people don't have a part and piece into the organization, they don't feel that they have something to do. They don't have a job to do. They don't have a part to play. Then they go somewhere else. So why do good people leave good jobs? Could be. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it in a way that I hope that leaders, you understand. The people that I interviewed within these organizations said that the leadership wasn't trustworthy. The organization wasn't trustworthy. Things happened within the organization that they felt wasn't trustworthy. And so there was no bond or no trust between the upper level and the lower level, between the person at the pulpit and the person in the pew. There wasn't a bond that happened there, and trust is built over time. Trust is an action item. Trust is something that bound people see but experience. And it goes right along with the next piece that they said that they felt no loyalty. They felt the organization had no loyalty to them, and therefore they felt they had no loyalty to the organization. So as soon as they got a better job or a better offer, they were on their way. You see, those things all add up to the prime problem, or prime opportunity, I should say. Why do good people leave good jobs? Poor or non-existent leadership, none or little communication, no follow-up or any way to do the evaluation, no metrics, no follow-up, nobody saying, hey, did this go well? Didn't it go well? What did we do best? Well, how the budget went? There was nothing there. No action plan. Everybody just do whatever he thinks right. No expectations. Well, if they don't expect anything from me, I guess I don't have to do anything. A feeling of non-trust, a feeling of no trust, and a feeling of no loyalty. And the very biggest piece that we saw in a commonality over and over, no matter where Miss Robin and I went to talk to people, whether we were talking to the leadership of a prophet or we were talking to the workers of a prophet, whether we were talking to the leadership of a nonprofit or the people out doing all the work in the nonprofit, whether we were talking to church leadership or we were talking to the people in the pews. Over and over, this next thing that I'm going to talk to you about happened. They said there was no reason to provide loyalty or trustworthiness in the organization because there was no vision for the organization. They didn't have a clue where we were going or how we were going to get there. They couldn't see anything other than it was a job. In a for-profit, in just a job, just over broke situation, even though you're getting paid well and you have good, all those rest of things that go with it, if there's no involvement, there's no reason to stay, if there's not any excitement, no motivation, no trust, no loyalty that, hey, I'm going to put all my effort into this, but I might get laid off tomorrow. You see, those things all happen very quickly. If there's no mission, why are we doing this? What are we doing it for? You see, a mission in a profit situation is just as important in a nonprofit. In a nonprofit, it might be we're trying to help the youth, or we're helping the youth learn certain things, or we're working with people to better themselves, whatever it is. We're seeing over and over that nonprofits are dwindling. People just don't want to volunteer. Why don't they want to volunteer? Well, they're not seeing any action. There's no mission. And in a church situation, the mission statements that most of the churches that we were going to are pretty nimble. They're really sad. And the people who are in the pews didn't have a part in it, and they don't feel part of the opportunity. But the big one is this strategy, this plan. You see vision, okay, future picture, mission, purpose or calling, strategy, plan. It sounds so simple, but you see the strategy incorporates what you're going to do daily, all those little daily things, so you can live the mission to achieve the vision. But if the people don't have a part in that, if they don't feel part of the plan, if they don't have any kind of accountability, they don't have anything that's moving up and back for communication, they don't see any kind of action plan, and they don't see the management or the leadership doing anything on that level and sharing what's going on at that upper level, why would they stay? Why do good people leave good jobs? Boredom. No trust. No loyalty. No moving ahead. Stuck in the same place. They don't give me any expectations. I just kind of do what I think I'm going to do. But every time I do that, then they expect me to do something else. But they didn't tell me what that was. There was no written expectations. I don't have a clue what my job title is or what my job expectations are. You see, job expectations in nonprofits and churches are just as important as they are in for-profits. If people don't have a part, they don't play a piece, if they don't have something that glues them to that situation, they're not going to stay around very long. Ask yourself, why would you want to stay in that situation? So, what kind of person are you? What are you made of? You concrete and stone and just stand there and look good? Are you made out of wood that can be burnt down and never be rebuilt? Are you a hoodoo that's been blown by sand and wind and you're just about ready to topple over? Are you the devil's tower who provides a strong and leadership that promotes growth? Man, I'll tell you what, these are hard questions. But when people ask me, how come people are leaving the church? How come people don't join the church? How come people are not joining Kiwanis and Rotary and all those other good groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts? How come we're not getting any involvement? Ask yourself, leadership, are we providing great leadership? Are we providing a wonderful communication value that can move up and down and back and forth? Are we doing any follow-up that has some metrics that we can look to see what's going on? Do we have an action plan? Do we know what needs to be done every single day to move ahead? Do we provide expectations when people come on board or into the organization? Even in a church, there ought to be some expectations. I expect you to come to church every Sunday or whatever. Show up. Be a part of it. Is there any kind of way to build the trust? What are you doing as the leadership to build the trust and to build the loyalty? You see how this all works together. Why do good people leave good jobs? They leave because they don't believe in what you're doing, because they have no idea what you're doing. Leaders, you want people to stick around? Provide excellent leadership, provide excellent communication, do some follow-up, provide the expectations. Make sure that you're always building the trust value and keeping it there and building loyalty. But by golly, do the basic of getting a vision that everybody can understand and buy into. Get a mission that everyone can buy in and understand, and work on the strategy, the day-to-day plan, so they know what needs to be done daily and how it needs to be done, so that everyone is working towards living the mission and achieving the vision. You want people to get excited? You're going to have to build that excitement. And leaders, it's all about you. But it's all about the people. Because if they don't see what they need from you, they're not going to stick around. Now, on behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, and it does take a team to put this all together, just so y'all know, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you have received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you build your leadership ability. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, don't hesitate. Send me an email, dick@leadershipwrangler.com, dick@leadershipwrangler.com. Go to our website, set your very own appointment with me. I'll get to you, www.leadershipwrangler.com, www.leadershipwrangler.com. If it's just burning desire, don't hesitate. Give me a phone call, 727-422-1833, 727-422-1833. And when you're ready to have that next great leadership speaker come and work with you and your organization, give us a call here, 727-422-1833, Dick Powell's Leadership Corner. Now, until next time, this is Leadership Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.